You are listening to Be Brilliant in Your Business, the podcast that helps creative business owners take charge of your time and energy so you can run your business confidently without burning out. I'm your host, Lindsay Brownson, and I'm here to deliver a creative cocktail of pep talks and practical tools to help you clear your head, take action, and enjoy the process of running your business. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to welcome new listeners. I'm so glad you're here, and I look forward to being part of your brilliant business. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, and even better, head to BeBrilliantListener.com to grab your new listener goodie bag. Are you ready? Let's go. Welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about money. Actually, the energy of money. And this is such a good episode. This is truly an episode, I'm not even being dramatic, that will change your life. Your life is going to look different because of this episode. And the reason why is because my guest today, her name is Molly Mandelberg, and she is talking about how to use energy work to heal your relationship with money. And one of the things that she and I first start talking about is how energy work has impacted our lives. And I have mentioned this a couple of times on the show. And if you go all the way back to episode 6 of this show, I brought on my energy healer, a woman that I worked with to shift my belief, shift my entire story very quickly around visibility as I was getting ready to launch this podcast. Without her, I would not be here doing this podcast. That's how terrified I was to actually put myself out in the world in this way. So fast forward to today, energy work is something that I've talked about a little bit here, but I mostly stick to the practical how-to kind of stuff and the mindset piece. So bringing in Molly to specifically talk about doing energy work around money just opened up a whole new conversation, and I cannot wait to share it with you. This is so good. And the best part of this whole conversation is that after we talked, I decided that before I recorded this intro to share this with you, that I was going to do that money work or that energy work for myself. So I did, and I tapped into one of the stories that I had around how hard it is or how hard I have to work in order to have opportunities come to me. Yes, this is something that I work on all of the time. I am not above this, so you're not alone. And after doing this work within one day, no kidding, I had a couple of opportunities, great opportunities that are just so in line with what I want to be doing today, who I am today and what I want today. They showed up in my inbox. I did not have to work hard for them at all. And as you'll hear me talk about with Molly, the reason that I really like her approach is because it's very in line with mine. It's a combination of knowing that this energy work and this larger work that we do to become who we want to be, and then the practical pieces that we put in place to create new opportunities. When those two things are aligned, that's when the best results in our life happen. And this work can really change things for you so quickly. I have had this experience a few significant moments in my life, and I just love it. I love this work, and I really encourage you to do this work for yourself. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you do, if this episode is right up your alley, make sure you add episode 63 to your playlist. It's called How Visualization Changes Your Life. And I talk all about the science behind visualization, why it actually works. And there's some goodies in there for you to do your own work with this as well. So between today's episode and that episode, you are off to the races on doing visualization and energy work that will change your life. So we've got good stuff for you here. Let's jump in and talk with Molly. This episode is brought to you by my summer game plan session. Do your summer plans include turning up the heat with your income and getting lots of free time to refresh and enjoy the season? The summer game plan session will help you do exactly that. In this one-to-one VIP session, we are going to create your sizzling strategy and an easy-to-implement plan to help you do less and earn more this summer. For more info, head to lindsaybrownson.com/game plan. And as a bonus, when you sign up, you'll receive the deck of my all-time most useful scripts for creative businesses. These easy-to-use templates will save you from your most tedious and time-consuming conversations once and for all. So instead of going cross-eyed at your keyboard all summer, you can get back to doing what matters. The summer game plan and bonus deck of scripts are a seasonal special, so it is a limited time offer because I plan to practice what I preach and enjoy the heck out of my summer too. So dive in quickly at lindsaybrownson.com/game plan. Welcome, Molly. Thank you so much for being on the show.
So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited that you're here. I'm really itching to dive into this topic with you because it's all about money, which is a big topic for entrepreneurs and most people in general. But even more exciting is that we're talking about money and energy and money and magic. So if you can kick us off, I want you to kind of introduce yourself. You have a podcast called Tactical Magic, which I just think is the most amazing title because it really bridges these two sort of areas that I think, the tactic and the practical steps, and then the magical and the energetic pieces that so often I think we kind of have our focus on one or the other. And so I just love that you're bridging that gap and bringing everybody together. So that's a great place to dive in. Give us a little intro on who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that read on Tactical Magic. I grew up when Practical Magic was a great movie as a kid. So it's sort of like a play on words, but it also very much encompasses what I do and how I serve people. So my name is Molly Mandelberg. My business is called Wild Hearts Rise Up. And I tend to work with successful coaches and holistic practitioners and healers and leaders and wisdom-preneurs, I guess you could say, and people who trade in wisdom and guidance. And I help them to go from one-on-one services to more leveraged business models. So I help them show up online. I help them grow their email list. I help them figure out how to use their email list so that they're actually connecting with people and building relationships with their audience. And I also help them build courses and programs and things like that. So that's the tactical side of it.
Yeah.
As I've been a spiritual seeker my whole life, I realized in my own business that there were a few times I had internal breakthroughs that led to immediate results shifting in my business. And I started playing with that and recognizing that and owning that. And finally started bringing that magical side into my business of recognizing that when we actually do the inner work, when we harness the magic inside of us and we start to unbridle it or unleash it or tap into the infinite nature of it, we actually turn the magnetics of our business up and we allow more people to show up. And that concept can be used by anyone. It's not just for entrepreneurs, that when we turn our magic up, our lives get better. Our finances flow, our relationships improve, our health improves, and that there's an energetic component to all of those things in our life. It's not just external. And I think probably most people have an awareness of that. Some people actually take action on that idea more than others. But one of my favorite things to do in my business is to bridge those two worlds of there's an inner side of this, and there's also a taking action and showing the heck up in our businesses side of it. Mm-hmm. And when we do both, then everything gets easier. So that's that. Tactical Magic is the name of my podcast, and I call it the Business Strategies Podcast for the Warrior Goddess Entrepreneur. And largely it is me interviewing other brilliant leaders and experts. And the topics range from business strategies of how do you think about Facebook advertising? How do you think about, writing a great email to your list? How do you think about launching a podcast of your own? And then it also is a lot of healing modalities and transformational leaders and tips and tool sharing of how to level up, how to heal your trauma, how to show up in the world so that you can be your most aligned and authentic self. And so it goes back and forth between healing stuff and business stuff and kind of it's all my favorite notes.
I love it. I love it. And so thank you for sharing that part of your story too, where the breakthroughs that you had in your business, they came so quickly, or the results came so quickly when it was that magical side, when it was that inner work and those energetic shifts that you made. I think that's really interesting because I've had a similar experience. I worked with an energy healer, and I've done many different healing modalities, and of course, a lot of work in personal development and psychological development. And I would agree with you. I think the biggest, most like radical shifts in my life were made so quickly from such simple, not even tweaks, but just simple shifts in the energy around something. And the reason I stumble with those words, and you said it so beautifully, but I stumble with it because it is kind of hard to pinpoint. It's hard to look at something that is magic, right? And say, this is why this works. And I think so many of us, when we're in this, in the business side, when we're thinking with that business mindset, that we're really looking for the tactics, we're looking for the scientific approach to things. And it can be challenging sometimes to get out of that way of thinking and into a more magical way of being. But all of that to say, really, I would agree with you. I think that's been the most like radical transformation in my life and in my business as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. It's absolutely easy to say, oh, it was a coincidence. I started meditating that day and then things got better the next day. Like that would be so convenient, but like, sure, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. It's easy to like discount it and play it off as maybe happenstance. When it started to be undeniable for me was when there were a few times in my life where things just changed dramatically overnight. And I knew that thing I had done the day before to transform myself or
Mhm.
heal that thing or open up in that way, that it had to have had some sort of an impact on it. And when it started to become like undeniable for me was when I would fall off of the wagon of my ritual or my practice or my like daily alignment stuff. And then life would just get crappier and money would get hard again. And I would feel less like myself and less blissed out and happy every day. And
Mhm.
then I'd realize, oh, I'm not doing that daily practice anymore. So I would go back and bring the magic back into my life. And then things would go back to a higher state. And after enough times of being like, oh, I forgot to do my stuff. Oh, let me start doing it again. Oh, life got better again. I have to just acknowledge that that's how it works.
Mhm.
That when I do this stuff, my life is better. And it's as simple as that, as long as I keep doing it. And of course, we are humans and we actually, I mean, from a higher state, we actually enjoy the drama and the trauma of this life. I think
Mhm.
that's why we came into bodies in the first place, was to play out these epic stories and tales and like wild dramas. So sometimes I think we subconsciously forget to do our practices or use our magic or tap into that stuff because we're subconsciously enjoying the thrill of not knowing how we're going to make money or not knowing how this relationship is ever going to get better or whatever the case may be. But we do have the capacity to change our lives by choice.
Yes. I love that. Okay, so I want to put this in context specific to money, but it sounds like I'll just kind of break this down my review of it. It sounds like there are the things that you do to create or facilitate those major breakthroughs so that you're actually like shifting your state of being or your position in this lifetime. And then there's the maintenance of it, there's the practice of it and the continuing work that you're doing to maintain that. Is it to maintain that energetic state or just to continue to grow and
Just
develop?
to keep being present to it. Yeah. To keep
Yeah.
choosing it, to keep being aware of it, to keep playing with it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So how does that look in relationship to money? So we're talking about our relationship with money and the peace that we want and the abundance that we want to have in our lives. So starting with maybe or you can talk me through this, but I would
Yeah.
assume it's kind of starting with like identifying and having that initial breakthrough.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's hard to go into your life and be like, I'm ready for a breakthrough and then just like go hunting for it. But one of the things to start being aware of is what is, and this relates to any aspect of your life, but yes, we're going to talk about it in relationship to money right now. Where is the limitation? So where is the part of you that believes that money is hard, money can't be had by you, that you'd be a bad person if you had money? All these like lies and judgments and decisions and conclusions and associations that you've made about money and with money, like you in relation to money and also money as its own thing. And first off, just start taking stock of what that is. Like, look at how you and money hang out in your life right now. For me, there was many years in my life where I just wouldn't make any money. I wouldn't bring it in. I wouldn't do anything to create it. I wouldn't have it at all. And I kept my expenses extremely low. Like there were years of my life where my bills added up to like $300 a month because I was living so cheaply.
Wow.
And I wasn't really playing the game of money at all. I had a lot of like judgment about it in my own life that it was bad to have it. If I had it, I would be an asshole, excuse my language, a jerk. That there was just a lot of judgment about money and about being someone who had money. And I know a lot of healers out there have that holier than thou thing. I am a better healer if I do this for free or if I just keep my rates low so more people can afford me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of lies in our heads about this. So first off is just taking stock of that. How do you actually think about money? How do you feel about money? How do you interact with money? If money comes into your life, do you feel ecstatic? Do you want to keep it around? Do you feel like it leaves you too soon and then you're mad at it because it's never enough and you've got this like you're never enough feeling toward money? Look at what that is. And once you're aware of that, you can start asking more questions. Is this true? Is this how I want my life to be? Is this what I would like to be true? And if you can find evidence in your awareness of it not being true for anyone else, then whatever you've decided is true for you is not universally true. And if it's not universally true, that means you can choose for it not to be true for you anymore. And once
I
you
love that.
choose a different,
Just pause on that, right?
Okay.
If it's not universally true, then you can choose.
Yeah, then it's you choosing that. And then once you're aware you're the one choosing that reality, you get the power back to then choose a different reality.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll keep going. Tell me more.
So the key here is that we have to, and it's hard to, but we have to stop being the victim in our relationship to anything, especially our relationship to money. This isn't happening at you. What if you are the creator of your reality and your choice is the only thing dictating how money is in your life? So once you take that power back, once you stop blaming things or being the victim of things and start saying, oh, hey, I have this truth about money and it's not really that true, so I'm going to choose something else to be true. Then it becomes the practice of, what do I want this to be like? And how can I pull that desired energy into my life? So we start going into imagination. We start going into visualization. We start asking questions that bring up the energy of what we desire. So for a while, I was doing this game of asking for a number. So it was like $10,000 a month, $10,000 a month. Then it became easy for me to have $10,000 a month in my business. So I started asking for $20,000 months. I want $20,000 months. And I had a couple of those and it was like, okay, I'm capable of it. It's not every month, but I'm capable of it. And yet there's still this like uncomfortable energy a lot of the time around my finances. So I was like, what am I doing wrong? Not a great question to ask. How could this be different is a better question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed it. I have a brilliant friend of mine who's an access consciousness facilitator named Cassie Summers. She's been my guiding light a lot of the last few years, and access consciousness in general. If you haven't heard about it, please Google it. It is life-changing. If this kind of questioning and reasoning and magic sounds like it's up your alley, access consciousness is who is to blame for bringing it into my life. So through this ongoing conversation with Cassie Summers, we came to this idea of peace with money. So I just want everybody who's out there listening to just put those words in your mouth for a second, peace with money. And see how foreign of a concept that feels to you, how comfortable of a concept that feels to you. See if those words even make sense to you right now. You might even not have heard what I just said. Peace with money is what I said. Peace with money. And there is an energy to it. And it was something that I had not ever considered in my reality, that there could be a state of being that was peaceful with money, where there wasn't drama, there wasn't excitement, there wasn't fear, there wasn't like anxiety, there wasn't like trauma, that it was just peace, that money and I have a relationship that equates to peace. So I didn't have it. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to tap into it. I just had an awareness that that was something that could exist. And once you get that that can exist, you can start looking for it. So I started looking for evidence of where that would be, looking for people who I thought might have that. And the totem that I came up with was Oprah Winfrey, of all people. I was like, I get that Oprah has peace with money. So I started going into Oprah's world and asking her, like, I don't know Oprah. I didn't actually call her on the phone. But through my meditations and my visualizations, I crawl into Oprah's world and say, hi, hey, Oprah, like, what is it like? I would start asking questions of Oprah to see what that peace with money energy was like. So I asked her, like, what is it like when you find out how much money you made today? And what I get is if someone walked in the room and told me I made as much today as Oprah makes in a day, I would freak out, I'm sure. I would lose my stuff and I would just go nuts. And so that showed me that I have this emotional pendulum swinging about money, that when money comes in, I go to glee and to ecstatic bliss, like, yay. And then I asked Oprah, what's it like when your person comes in and tells you how much you owe for taxes, or that you have a big bill due, or that, this is what your next house is going to cost or whatever. And you get a money going out number. And I got that it was kind of the same, not the same as money coming in, but it was still a state of like, oh yeah, of course, that's what it is. Great. That's the number. All right. It's handled. We've got that. No problem. There was a state of calm, maybe we could call it peace, around money. And so what I got is when I find out how much I owe in taxes, I go to the opposite end of that pendulum swing. The pendulum swings way out into the beyond of like, how on earth are we going to handle this? Like, I know I'm capable of making money. I make great money. My business is kind of successful. And yet I'm going to this trauma place when I have a big bill, even though that money's usually there, I can handle it. So what is this pendulum swing and why do I keep doing it when I know that calm would be possible? In between the vacillation of positive and negative, there is a middle point of calm and peace. And so what I got was that Oprah hangs out in the middle of that pendulum swing. And there's this alignment, this calm, this like groundedness of her relationship to money is not an emotional issue. It is a calm of, yes, that's there. We've got that. It's handled. Wonderful. This is how things work for us. There's just a knowing of having a peace with money. So I just like would go into Oprah's world and ask those questions and get that awareness and then try to feel what that felt like in my body of like, hey, a big number came in or a big number needs to go out. And like, what if that feeling in my body was just like, yeah, okay, we got that. And then I would sit with that feeling as long as I could. And sometimes that was like 10 seconds in a day. And sometimes it was like 90 seconds. And sometimes I would like spend my whole morning meditation practice working on that. I also am a writer. So I write in the morning before I get out of bed and I write at night. And so either one or the other of those two writing times in my journal, or both sometimes, I would write what peace with money looked like for me. What would peace with money feel like in my body today? What would peace with money be like in my reality if I had it? And it's like, I would buy a first class ticket to Austin next month instead of business class, or instead of economy, or instead of basic economy, whatever ticket I'm buying, I would buy the fancier ticket because I want to have the like fancy seat. And if I had peace with money, I would never again count at the grocery store. I would buy all the organic produce I want without worrying if I had enough money in my account at that moment. I would never look at my bank account while I'm at the grocery store. How about that? I don't know if anybody else has done that. Like, oh, let me just check which card I should use.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's pretty normal in my world even now. And if I had peace with money, that probably wouldn't be a part of my world. So what would be in your life or what would not be in your life anymore if peace with money were your reality? And just dancing with that idea. This is a creative exercise. What do you come up with? What would that look like for you? If anyone's out there, feel free to pause this for a second and try to come up with a couple things that peace with money would look like or feel like or be like in your life. And
Yes.
as I did this practice, my world with money changed. I started paying off debt instead of having full balances on all my credit cards. I paid off like 8 lines of credit. That's not all my credit, but that was more than half. And I started investing money. I started actually like being interested in personal finance books and like geeking out on what kinds of investments to partake in. And then watching those investments like grow over time, which is like a whole nother income stream I had never even thought to make, where you actually just like put money into an investment and that investment just grows. That's like money making money babies for you. You don't have to do anything about that. That's such a fun way to play with the magic of money.
Yes.
And yeah, so things started shifting and I started being someone who just had cash in my wallet that I didn't need to spend, that it was just there, and started having like, you know, a checking account that didn't go down to the same low numbers that it usually goes down to. It would hang out at a higher number. And that just was not my reality before playing with these tools. Then there will be times where money gets weird and I'm like, oh crap, what's going on? And like, oh yeah, you haven't written what you thought about peace with money in a while. You haven't sat with the energy of peace with money in a while. That energy just isn't something you're dancing with. And so you're going into this funny game of drama and trauma with money again. So like put on your big girl shoes and start playing the game again. And once I play the game, it changes back to being fun, changes back to being peace. So finally, I responded. I'm a course creator to my core. I like making content. And I played with this exercise with a couple of my different groups and group programs and memberships that I run with other brilliant, magical leaders. And every time I do it on a call, I get text messages and direct messages and emails the day or two after saying, oh my God, this magical, miraculous thing just happened. And it's like, okay, I can't deny it anymore. It's not just me that's using this idea and making it a magical life. So I decided to put it into a little short course. It's such a simple practice, but we're going to put it in practice and hold each other accountable to like getting it in our bones, how simple of a tool this is to use.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach people how to create courses and programs. So I would never recommend that someone build an entire 4-week, 5-call program and give it away for free. But I had a download while I was laying on a massage table receiving energy work in Mexico a few weeks ago that the first 100 people get in for free. So I decided to launch a program and make a coupon code. And the first 100 people who decide to sign up for this get to come in for free. And I'm sorry to say to all of you listening that depending on when this goes out, I sent one email last week and 64 of the spots are already gone. So I don't know if there's going to be any more free spots left, but it's open to more than 100 people if we go beyond the free spot limit. But yeah, it's really exciting. What's exciting to me about that 64 people is that people want to play with this energy, that
Mm-hmm.
without knowing much about it, and I know that everybody wants to make more money, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but that this is different than, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is not a strategy you can use for your business. This is like a playful practice of magic that a lot of people are like game for, which is really exciting for me.
Yes. Well, I think we all need more fun and lightheartedness and games in our lives, especially when it comes to ways that we're trying to grow and improve our life experience. Like, there's no better way than cultivating joy. There's no better way than tapping into that creative, fun, playful energy.
Yeah, totally.
Awesome. I love that. So I'm like furiously writing down ideas that are popping into my head while you're talking. But the first thing I want to say too is that this idea that you had, this download that you had to give 100 spots away for free is such an incredible thing too, that comes out of the work that you do with money. When you become an abundant person, when you become a person who can financially support themselves and can do the work that they want to do and take care of themselves in the world, you have more to give, right? So I think where people so often get stuck, or business owners get stuck, is that they want to be altruistic, right? We want to give our stuff away. We want to be doing things just for the sake of helping people, with which is beautiful. But I think this idea of free versus paid, like, give all the free stuff away that you want to after you are already sufficiently paid, right? And you have the ability to do that because of the way that you've set yourself up in your business and the types of things that you're creating. It allows you to even be more giving and put more stuff out into the world. And that's just a cycle that continues to grow the more and more successful we become.
I love that reflection. Thank you.
Yeah. So the certainly talking about the game of, playing with magic, playing with these ideas, having fun, playful questions, talking to Oprah. I talk about fun and games and making it fun all the time here on this show. And visualization is a big part of that as well. But I'm just such a fan of really recognizing that this work that you do to go into somebody else's world and to hypothetically hang out with them and interview them and ask them these questions, it does feel so empowering and so exciting. But what it's doing really is it's imprinting this possibility in your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
So it's creating a marker, that state of being. So then you are able to return to it more and more. And every time that you do that, which is what you're saying, Molly, is that every time you're practicing that, you're essentially tapping back into something that's fundamentally inside of you. And once you create that imprint, so once you do this work one time, you've got it there. I'm sure that you
Yeah. It's
probably
there.
agree it's there already, but it's
Yeah.
creating this context for it.
Yeah, as you're saying that, I'm like imagining this analogy, which I have never put together before. And I love that you're bridging that context gap for us. But anyone who's seen The Matrix, and Keanu sits down and they like put in a disk drive or whatever, and then he opens his eyes and he's like, I know kung fu. It's just like that. It's like you're going in and putting in a new disk drive into your subconscious, unconscious mind that now you know Kung Fu. So when Kung Fu is needing to occur in your life, that piece with money is suddenly an accessible drive.
Yes.
It's an accessible possibility in your reality now because you've input it into your system. So yeah, like we can do that with literally anything in our lives. It's amazing.
It is. Oh, I love it. And I know you said too, this idea of peace with money and the work that we do isn't a magic bullet. It's not a get rich quick kind of scheme, but there is such a simplicity. And like we said at the beginning of this conversation, a rapid shift that happens when you start to do that. And I think that that's something where, again, as entrepreneurs, especially, and just in the world that we live in, the messaging that we hear is so much around overcomplicating things, and the harder you work and the harder you try, and that's, and the more you hustle, that's how you get results. And so I think
Yes.
it's almost, this whole process is kind of helping you unlearn overcomplicating things and help you just allow things to be simple. And that is why sometimes these shifts can happen so rapidly.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an entrepreneur, like, and as a business coach, kind of, I don't really call myself a business coach, but that's basically what I am, a business consultant and strategist, in addition to all this magical stuff that I do. I'm a big fan of creating more streams of income. Like, how can we make it more accessible for money to come and play with us? How many different pathways or channels can we unlock? How many doors can we open so that
Mhm.
money can flow in once we get out of our own way to receiving it? So there is work to be done there. We have to set some things up in order to allow that money to come in the first place. And if you've dedicated your entire life to the hustle and grind of making things happen
Mhm.
and haven't looked at all at allowing things to happen and who you are when you actually relax and float and surrender to the flow, that would be something to go and play with for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that distinction is really important too, because multiple streams of income, I think many people are thinking about that as, what else can I create? Where else can I be? What else should I be doing? And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of again, that's coming from the scarcity mindset. That's coming from the place of like, the more I do, the more possibility I have to be successful. And so you do want to kind of find that balance for yourself. Streams of income, like you said before, investing in things is a great way to have a stream of income that takes very little effort from you. And
Yeah.
there's ways that you can look at the offerings that you're already putting out into the world and say, like, how could this be a more viable stream of income or a stream of income at all if you've been giving it away for free, right? So there's so many possibilities and ways of just opening those doors, like you said, to allow more in without actually saying like, oh, now I have to go and create a course, or now I have
Right.
to go and advertise on Pinterest, or
Right.
right. So many of the tactical things that we want to do to make this happen faster. It's not necessarily what we mean by saying bring in more and open all of the channels.
Yeah, totally. And also, like, for those people who are out there who don't have a business yet or who are working a job, like, you start playing with this and you think, oh, the only way this can change is if I get a raise. And it's like, no, what if suddenly an opportunity for an entire different career path or entirely different company to work for shows up? You never know how it's going to happen when you start playing with this magic. All you can do is tap into your awareness and get present to the energy of possibilities. And then when something matches that vibe in your life, pay attention to it. When a job opportunity shows up or when a conversation with someone you don't know that well happens to feel light, go in that direction, see what it becomes, and you'll never know. I also want to just address the big concern that I know is out there for anyone listening to this conversation who maybe isn't as far on the end of woo spectrum as I am, that this stuff doesn't work. And that is absolutely a point of view y'all can have out there. Totally fine. I forget who said this quote. I should look it up because I've said it twice this week. But there's an amazing quote that says, argue for your limitations and they're yours.
Yes.
And basically, the only way this stuff doesn't work is if you are not willing to entertain the idea that it does. And so my invitation to everyone listening is, if you're going to play with this stuff, do it without the energy of needing to prove it works. Do it without the energy of needing to prove it doesn't work. Just do it as an experiment in your life, as if you are the scientist of your reality, and you're going to see what happens if you play with this. And if you don't like it, you can always just stop playing with it, but give it a few days or weeks, or give it a moment of your energy to see how it impacts you.
That is perfect. I don't think we can top that. Thank you so much. This has been such an amazing, tactical, and magical conversation. And I really mean that. I'm so excited for people to listen. So, yes, sadly, the 100 spots will probably be gone by the time this comes out. But how can people connect with this Peace with Money course or this program to get started in that way?
Absolutely. So Wild Hearts with an S, wildheartsriseup.com is my website. There's an offerings tab there. We'll also make sure to get a special code for Lindsay's audience. So you guys can probably look in the show notes for that and find it that way too.
Fabulous. All right. So yes, we'll include links for everything in our show notes. And Molly, where else can people connect with you? wildheartsriseup.com. And where are you online?
Yeah. So on Facebook, it's Wild Hearts Rise Up. On Instagram, it's wild_1, ONE_rising, wild one rising. And that's where you'll find a lot of my daily pep talks and insights. And also, I travel the world full time living in a Sprinter van that I converted into a tiny home. So you can see a little bit of my nomadic lifestyle on Instagram. And that stuff is also on Facebook, Wild Hearts Rise Up.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Molly, for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
I hope you are leaving this conversation feeling energized and inspired. I do recommend that you check out Molly's program, Peace with Money. I'm in it. It is everything that I would want it to be to recommend it to you. So it's a great way to establish this practice to do some specific work around money. I told Molly that I was loving it and how much I loved our conversation. And she decided to give me a 10% discount to offer to you. If you want to take that program and you use the code Lindsay, Linsi, then you'll get 10% off of the program as well. All right, Maverick, that is what I've got for you today. Go have a wonderful week, do your magic in the world, and I will talk to you soon. Do you love these doses of insight and inspiration for your business? Then you're going to want to join me inside the Maverick HQ, our listener library with helpful tools to create clarity, spark creativity, and manage your time like a boss. It's all inside the Maverick HQ, and it's totally free for you. Head to BeBrilliantPodcast.com to join right now.